CEO's dark secret revealed. Black Sun's warning at 3 a.m. changed everything forever. The night was thick with tension, darkness wrapping around the tall glass buildings of downtown like a sinister cloak. It was 3 a.m. when the phone rang, piercing the silence in a way that felt all wrong. Inside the penthouse of the city's most powerful CEO, Marcus Blaine, the air was electric, charged with the unshakable feeling that something monumental was about to unfold. His heart raced as he answered. It was Brandon, his estranged son, the son he hadn't spoken to in years. "Dad," Brandon's voice echoed, shaky and urgent. "You need to listen. I'm not safe." The words hung in the air, each syllable dripping with an ominous weight. A sudden chill swept through Marcus. He could almost hear the sound of his son's breaths, rapid and frantic as if he were running from something unseen. What could possibly threaten Brandon? He was an artist, known for his unconventional canvases and abstract visions, not a target for danger. Just then, the lights flickered precariously. Marcus's brow furrowed. Was it the storm outside making the electricity stutter? Or something darker? Memories of their last fight flooded back, shouts, accusations, pain. Brandon had warned him before, but this felt different. It felt real. As Marcus pulled at the tie around his neck, he felt an unsettling knot in his stomach. The city that shimmered outside his window, his empire, felt suddenly fragile, like a cool glass sculpture about to shatter. "What's going on?" he pressed, desperate to peel back the layers of dread wrapping around his heart. "There's something under the city. Something they're hiding from us, from everyone. You need to trust me." Another frantic breath. "I can't explain now, but you have to move fast." Each heartbeat thundered in Marcus's ears, drowning out his increasingly chaotic thoughts. What was Brandon stumbling upon? Why would it involve his father? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Concerned Claude at Marcus's insides. "Brandon, what do you mean?" he demanded, feeling frustration bubbling beneath the fear. But he couldn't shake the urgency in his son's voice. "I'll explain later. Just get out there. The truth is dark, and they're watching." Suddenly, the line went dead. The silence that rushed in was deafening. Marcus stood frozen, staring into the darkness. Who was watching? With a jolt, he grabbed his coat, determination igniting a fire in his chest. Whatever was lurking beneath the city needed to be uncovered. But as he stepped into the night, a shadow flitted past his peripheral vision, a movement too quick to identify. Marcus's breath hitched. He wasn't just walking into the unknown. He was stepping into a storm that could ruin everything he'd built. And as he hurried into the night, one question loomed larger than the city skyline. What was lurking just outside of the light? The cold air slammed against Marcus's face as he stepped outside, the wind whipping around him like an anxious animal. He wrapped his coat tighter, every instinct telling him to turn back, but he couldn't let fear paralyze him. Brandon needed him. He raced down the dimly lit streets, the sound of his footsteps echoing against the pavement. Just a few blocks away from his penthouse, the city slept, oblivious to the dangers spiraling beneath its surface. Each corner he rounded felt like peeling back layers of an onion's secrets waiting to be revealed, waiting to sting with tears. Brandon's frantic words replayed in his mind. Something they're hiding from us. What could be so significant, so terrifying, that it involved a warning born of desperation? As Marcus passed a flickering streetlight, a flicker of movement made him pause. He squinted into the shadows. Was someone watching him? His heart raced. Self-doubt crept in. Had he made a mistake coming out here? What if this was just Brandon's imagination? What if there was nothing to find? Just as he was about to dismiss the tension, a sudden crash came from an alley to his right. The sound sliced through the air like a siren. Without thinking, he veered toward it, his legs pumping harder. He rounded the corner into the alleyway, the darkness so thick he could barely see. "Hello?" he called out, peering into the void where trash cans loomed like sentinels. Silence fell heavy. clawing at the back of his mind as he scanned the dark corners, trying to find anything that would ease this sense of impending doom. Then, a figure stepped forward, partially hidden in shadows. Marcus took a step back, heart pounding, dread flooding through him like ice water. The person, no, it was a man wore a tattered jacket, his hair wild and unkempt. Fear glinted in his eyes. "Please, don't scream. I'm not here to hurt you," the man rasped, raising his hands in surrender. "I know your son." The chill of recognition washed over Marcus. "What do you know about him? Where is he?" "He's in danger. We all are. You need to listen." The man took a sworn step closer, but Marcus instinctively drew back. "They're planning something big. You have to dig into what's beneath the city." "Who?" Marcus shouted, his patience fraying at the edges. "Who is planning what? What's beneath the city?" The man looked around, paranoia etched on his face. "The corporation you work for, Blaine Corp, it's not what you think. There are tunnels, a project underground. Things that make the company's reputation a lie. You have to find Brandon." The man's words swirled around Marcus like poison. He opened his mouth to press for details, but the man backed away, shaking his head. "I can't stay. You're being watched." Before Marcus could react, the man bolted back into the darkness beyond the alley, leaving Marcus dizzy with unanswered questions and a sudden glimmer of fear. He steadied himself against the cool brick of the wall, processing the fragmented information. He needed to find Brandon quickly. Whatever dark thing was lurking beneath the city, it was precariously linked to his son. He turned back toward the main street. A thought pierced through the noise in his head. What if he wasn't the only one looking for Brandon? Instinctively glancing over his shoulder, Marcus hurried down the sidewalk, scanning for any sign of his son or the threat lingering in the night. He was stepping deeper into a mystery that was becoming all too real, each shadow an echo of fear that left him shivering. Then, he heard the faint sound of footsteps trailing behind him, a rhythmic pattern that was growing closer. His pulse quickened, heart pounding as he turned sharply, the tension curling tight in his gut. Were they following him? The realization surged through him like fire. No turning back now. What had he awakened in this city? And would he make it back to his son in time? Marcus's heart thundered in his chest, the footsteps echoing ominously behind him. He couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted in the shadowy city. The moon hung low, its soft glow barely cutting through the oppressive darkness. He needed to think, to act, but panic clawed at him. Staying in one place felt like inviting danger. He glanced down the street, empty except for the distant hum of a car engine. He turned abruptly, darting towards a storefront with a flickering neon sign. It flickered half price in the back, but he didn't care. He slipped inside, his breath coming in sharp bursts. The smell of grease and old cardboard boxes filled the air. Dark shapes loomed around him, shelves stocked with discarded items that made the place feel like a forgotten museum of broken dreams. Marcus pressed himself against the wall, praying that whoever was behind him would simply pass by. The footsteps stopped. Silence stretched like a taut wire. He strained to listen. Every sound magnified: the ticking of a clock, the distant honk of a car horn, his own racing pulse. What if they knew he was here? The weight of uncertainty pressed heavily on his shoulders. Finally, he dared to peek around the edge of the shelf. Nothing. Just the emptiness of the night and his ever-growing dread. But every instinct screamed that he wasn't alone. He clutched his phone, heart racing as he wondered if he should call Brandon. Was he safe? He dialed quickly, but the line was dead. Fumbling, he stepped further into the shadows, his eyes scanning for an exit. Suddenly, the sound of a door creaked open somewhere in the back of the store. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the dim light. A chill slithered down Marcus's spine. "Hey, who's there?" he called out, trying to sound brave, though his voice wavered like a flame in the wind. The figure stepped forward, revealing a young woman with wild hair and a face covered with paint stains from a late-night art project. She looked just as startled as he felt. I was just looking for something," she stammered, glancing nervously over her shoulder. "Are you alone?" Marcus pressed, urgency clawing at him. "Yeah, just trying to find a safe spot not out there." She gestured toward the door he had just come through, fear sparking in her eyes. "They're everywhere tonight." "What do you mean, they?" Marcus felt the grip of fear tighten like a noose. Before she could answer, a loud bang echoed outside, shaking the fragile calm. The door they had entered burst open, and a group of menacing figures flooded in, their faces obscured by masks. Panic erupted. "Run!" Marcus shouted, grabbing the woman's wrist, and together they dashed into the labyrinth of shelves, heart racing and feet pounding against the cold floor. They propelled themselves deeper into the clutter, desperately seeking a place to hide or a way out. The sounds of pursuit followed harsh footsteps and angry voices. "We know you're in here. Find them." Marcus's brain raced. He couldn't let them catch him or the girl. What were they after? He panted, trying to catch his breath. "Something they think I have," she whispered frantically. "Please, if they find me, they'll hurt you too." "Who?" He pressed, yet just then, the shelves rattled as a figure loomed over them, silhouetted by the light spilling in from the door. In that moment, time froze. Something shifted in the air, a mixture of dread and adrenaline. Would they be caught? Would they find out whatever darkness lay beneath the city? As Marcus looked up, catching a glimpse of the figure's shadowy face, a chilling thought gripped him. What if they were too late? The world spun like a wheel of fortune, and destiny was about to deal its hand. What secrets were waiting to surface in the grim underbelly of the city? Would they have the strength to face it? Marcus's heart seized as the masked figure loomed closer, the light casting a ghastly outline. He could feel the heat of fear building in his chest. The girl beside him was trembling, her grip tightening on his wrist as if he were her lifeline. "Get down," Marcus hissed, pulling her behind a shelf piled high with dusty boxes. They crouched low, the shadows swallowing them up amid the noise of the intruders searching the store. He could barely breathe, the smell of stale grease mixing with the sour tang of dread. "Why do they want you?" Marcus whispered, his voice barely a tremor over the chaotic sounds. She met his eyes, wide and desperate. "I'm not sure, but I found something they really want, their secret." Her lips quivered, and for a moment, he felt a flicker of hope mingled with fear. Suddenly, one of the masked figures stepped closer to their hiding spot, muttering incoherently. "Check everywhere. We need to find that girl." The frustration in his voice cut through the tension hanging in the air. Marcus's mind raced. What could she possibly have that would put them in this much danger? It was like a knife twisting deeper in his gut. He had to protect her. "Can you run?" "Only if you do," she whispered back, her eyes darting nervously. They shared a brief moment of understanding, the unspoken bond of two souls thrown together by fate, swept up in a chaos they never signed up for. The figure paused, tilting his head slightly, and Marcus felt the hair on his neck stand on end. "I think I heard something." His breath was hot, laced with aggression. Before he could react, the girl reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, glimmering object. The soft light caught it, and for a heartbeat, Marcus saw it sparkle. She looked at him, panic and determination swirling in her gaze. "If they get this, everything changes. Whatever it is, keep it hidden," he urged, ready to make a move. The din of footsteps grew closer, and desperation clawed at him. They both exchanged glances, standing at the precipice of decision. Should they stay and face whatever horrors awaited, or risk it all and run toward the unknown? "Now!" Marcus yelled, acting on instinct. He surged forward, dragging her out behind him as they hurtled toward an emergency exit at the back of the store. They burst through the door, the chill night air hitting their faces like a slap. They didn't stop. They kept running, the echoes of chaos fading behind them as they dodged around the corner into a dark alleyway. "Where to?" the girl panted, glancing around wildly. The moonlight barely illuminated their path, leaving them vulnerable. I don't know. Anywhere but here." Sweat streamed down Marcus's forehead. In the chaos, he glanced down at the object in her hand. It glinted ominously in the dim light. "What is that?" "It's a key. In more ways than one," she said, her voice shaking as she pressed it into his palm. "They think it unlocks their secrets, but it could unlock something much worse. We've got to find a way to destroy it." Marcus's pulse quickened. They weren't just escaping their pursuers anymore. They were holding the key to something monumental. The newfound reality was crushing and terrifying. "Then we need to find someone who can help us," he replied, determination glinting in his eyes. "Someone who knows what it really means." Just as they rounded another corner, a dark figure stepped into their path, blocking their exit. Marcus froze, instinct screaming as he recognized those masked faces behind the sudden silhouettes. "You're not going anywhere." A voice growled. Marcus's mind raced. They were getting closer to the truth, but at what cost? Would they make it out alive, or had they walked right into a trap? The night was far from over, and shadows whispered with secrets waiting to be revealed. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: this was just the beginning. Marcus's heart hammered in his chest as the masked figures advanced, the moonlight framing their ominous shapes. Every instinct screamed at him to protect her, to keep that mysterious key safe. What dark magic could it hold? As fear knotted in his gut, he gripped her hand tighter, ready to bolt in any direction that would take them away from danger. "Stay behind me," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Let us sneak around them." The girl breathed, urgency fueling her words. But even as they crouched low, peering around the corner of the alley, Marcus could feel the weight of impending doom crushing down on them. The figures loomed closer, their eyes glinting with determination and malice. "The longer we wait, the worse this will get," one of them barked, scanning the alley as if his cold gaze could pierce through the shadows. "Have you seen anything?" Another voice called from a distance. "That girl has to be here." They had to move. Time was slipping away and the walls of their world pressed inward with every second. They exchanged a glance, and Marcus nodded. Speaking without words, the urgency echoed loud enough between them. "Now," he commanded once more, throwing himself forward as they sprinted past their pursuers. Past the flickering street lamps, past the echoes of their pursuers' footsteps pounding like war drums, they dashed toward a narrow exit leading to another street. Breathless, Marcus dared to glance back, only to see one of the figures breaking from the group, a predatory glint in his eyes. "They split up," he shouted, gripping the girl's arm and steering her into an alley that opened before them. "We can lose him in here." They ducked behind a dumpster, pressing together in the darkness, hearts racing in synchrony. Marcus could feel her warmth beside him, a thin sliver of comfort in the chaos. But he couldn't shake the ominous weight of the key in his pocket. "What do we do now?" she whispered, trembling against him, her breath shallow. "If they catch us, we won't let them." The uncertainty hung in the air, but Marcus forced conviction into his voice. "But we need to figure out what that key unlocks. Something tells me it has the answers." Before she could respond, a sudden noise clamored nearby, a thud, then more footsteps. Panic coursed through Marcus's veins as he leaned to see what was happening. A figure rounded the corner, their mask glistening under the scant light. It searched the alley, its movements sharp and unforgiving. "Check everywhere. We can't let them get away. They'll kill us if we let them," she whispered, eyes darting around for an escape route. "That's why we can't get caught." The urgency in Marcus's tone matched the force of the pounding footsteps. He scanned the alley's exits, calculating each possible path. The girl suddenly stiffened beside him. "What if we tried to negotiate?" "Negotiate?" He shook his head, the notion sounding absurd in the midst of danger. "They're not here to talk. They want that key." "Exactly," she said, pulling out the key again, letting it catch the weak light. "If we use it as bait, we might lure them away from us and have a chance to escape. They'll think we'll hand it over." Marcus hesitated. It felt dangerous, reckless. But the fire in her gaze told him she believed it could work. Every second counted, and there was no time for second-guessing. "Okay," he agreed, the words tasting sour on his tongue, "but we have to stick together. No matter what happens." Just as they were about to move, a loud crash echoed, creating a heaviness that sank in Marcus's chest. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice a whisper now. Before he could answer, a new figure materialized from the shadows, a gleam of steel in their hand. "You think you can trick us?" The voice oozed with malice. Stepping closer, Marcus felt the chill of fear creep through him, tightening around his throat. It was no longer just a fight for survival, but a battle of wits. They were about to find out exactly how far they were willing to go in that electrifying moment. Love, betrayal, and danger coiled tightly around them, threatening to suffocate as the masked figure raised the weapon. Would they survive this confrontation, or was this the end of their story? And more importantly, what lay behind the door that the key was meant to unlock? Marcus's heart raced as a bead of sweat trickled down his temple. The masked figure stood there, a formidable silhouette in the darkness, eyes locked on the shimmering key the girl clutched tightly in her trembling fingers. This was no mere encounter. It was a standoff, the stakes impossibly high. "Throw it to me," the figure hissed, tilting his head slightly, revealing more of the dark fabric that clung to him like a second skin. "And maybe you both walk out of here alive. But what if they don't keep their word?" Marcus whispered, his mind racing to deduce their next move. He felt her hand go cold in his grip, a stark contrast to the heat of the moment, reality twisting around them as the choice became a knife edge. The girl shifted slightly, allowing Marcus a glimpse of the fear etched on her face and the defiance lurking beneath. "No," she said, her voice steady despite the panic. "We can't just hand it over. We need to use it to buy time, something more than just our lives." Marcus swallowed hard, her resolve igniting something within him. "Then what do we do?" His heart pounded in his chest as he met her gaze. Beneath that fear, he saw a glimmer of hope, a plan waiting to ignite. "Maybe we keep it close and let them think it's ours to give. Once their guard is down, we bolt." "Risky," Marcus said, the weight of her idea settling heavily on his shoulders. "Riskier if we just stand here." She bit her lip, her brow knitted with determination as noise from the street beyond crescendoed. "We have to act now. On three, wait." The dark figure interrupted, a flash of anger sparking in his voice. He stepped closer, the steel weapon glimmering ominously in the dim light. "I can count, kid. Either you give it to me, or this ends very badly." "Three," she shouted, ignoring the threat as they both sprung into action, the world around them blurring. In one fluid motion, she tossed the key toward the figure. Marcus felt time slow as it flew through the air, shimmering brilliantly before it landed with a clatter at the masked man's feet. "Gotcha," she declared, pushing Marcus backward into the shadows, but the figure lunged forward, snatching the key with surprising agility. "Now," he bellowed, but not fast enough. They dashed blindly into the inky blackness of the alley, weaving past dumpsters and refuse. Heavy footsteps thundered behind them, anger and pursuit pressing like a relentless wave. "Left. Down that way," Marcus shouted, grabbing her hand again, guiding her deeper into the maze of alleys. His chest tightened with each turn, adrenaline fueling their frantic escape. "Are we safe?" she panted, her eyes wide with fright. "For now," Marcus shot back. But even as they fled, an instinctual dread gnawed at him. The figure wouldn't stop, not until they got what they wanted. Suddenly, a flash of light illuminated their escape route. The sound of sirens cut through the night, a chaotic melody of piercing urgency. "The cops," she gasped, hope breaking through the fog of fear. "Not yet," Marcus replied, voice laced with worry. "If they find us too, we might get caught in the crossfire, but if we can make it to the main street, we can lose that guy in the crowd." But just as they made their way toward the glow of looming buildings, a shadow erupted from a side street. Another figure, equally masked, blocked their path. "Going somewhere?" he asked, a hint of a smirk twisting his lips. Their hearts raced anew, the alley now feeling like a trap. They were outmanned, outmatched. "Run," Marcus shouted, instinct taking over. They turned, but the world began to spin, darkness closing in around them as the realization of what lay ahead dawned terrifyingly. What awaited them at the end of the road? Would they break through the wall of danger? Or were they walking blindly into a new nightmare? Marcus and the girl sprinted back into the spiral of alleyways, their breaths coming in ragged gasps as adrenaline surged through their veins. The second figure pursued them, boots pounding against the concrete and matching their speed with a determined ferocity. Shadows flicked past them, the gangly silhouette growing larger with every heartbeat. "Which way now?" she yelled over her shoulder, panic flaring in her voice. Marcus didn't have a solid plan, just the hope that adrenaline could fuel their escape. "Just keep running. We'll find a way out." They turned sharply into another alley, the pending confrontation hanging thick in the air. Marcus glanced back, catching a glimpse of the masked figure, his eyes glinting with rage, his weapon glimmering under the feeble light like a predator poised to strike. In their frantic flight, they skidded to the left, narrowly avoiding a dumpster that loomed like a silent sentinel. The girl stumbled, almost losing her footing. But with a quick grab, Marcus pulled her back into motion before she could fall. "We have to lose him," he panted, dread bubbling beneath his bravery. There has to be an exit somewhere. Look. She pointed ahead, a fractured glow at the end of the alley. But as they neared it, a sudden chill swept through Marcus. A startling realization gripped him. That light was too illuminated, too inviting, almost a well-lit trap. Wait, it could be a dead end. He shouted, halting her just short of the light. She hesitated, uncertainty flickering across her face. What do we do then? Before he could answer, the second masked figure rounded the corner behind them, blocking their previous escape route, his breath steady and chilling. You kids are making this too easy, he sneered, advancing with purpose. Marcus's throat tightened, the weight of despair settling heavier on his chest. We need to fight, he blurted out, though it sounded desperate even to his own ears. Fight, she echoed incredulously, swinging around to assess their options. With what? He armed. Anything. Marcus's resolve surged. This was not just about escaping. Their survival demanded courage. Just as he spoke, a shattered beer bottle glinted to the side, light catching on the jagged edges. He lunged for it, seizing it as a makeshift weapon. Here, I'll distract him. You find a way out. No, I want to leave you. Panic seeped into her voice. Desperation etched across her features. Do it, he roared, pushing her backward with a sense of urgency and making a mad rush toward their pursuer. The second masked figure laughed, unfazed by Marcus's bravado, stepping forward with menacing confidence. Foolish boy, he said, raising his weapon, a jagged glint dancing menacingly in the alley light. You're out of your league. Marcus tightened his grip around the bottle, feeling the rough glass bite into his palm. The narrow alley felt like an arena now, the tension thick enough to choke on. The moment stretched into eternity, every sound, every heartbeat counted down. The girl hesitated before bolting toward the light, ripping through the darkness with a fierce determination to escape, leaving Marcus behind in a terrifying standoff. The masked figure lunged at Marcus. He swung the bottle with all his might, shattering it against the man's shoulder. But it wasn't enough. The man sneered against the pain, advancing relentlessly. Run! Marcus shouted again, panic coursing through him. Get out of here! And then, just as he braced for the blow that would come, the world exploded in noise. Sirens blaring, lights flashing. The masked figure hesitated, confusion breaking through his menacing demeanor. Was it enough? Would the sirens give them salvation, or would they only amplify their horror? Keep going, Marcus urged, even as his body braced for the fight. But all he could do now was hope she was safe wherever she was. The sirens drew closer, but would they arrive before darkness swallowed him whole? As the adrenaline surged, a horrifying thought brutally crossed his mind. What if their fate rested in the hands of a stranger? Would they both find escape, or would this night end in something far worse than they ever imagined? Marcus readied himself, waiting for the next moment to decide their fate, uncertainty thundering like a drum in his heart. The sirens roared like a distant beast, drawing ever closer, but Marcus knew he couldn't wait for them to provide safety. He could feel the masked figure's presence waiting, shifting, preparing to strike. Time thinned to a sharp edge as he held the jagged pieces of glass, determination thrumming under his skin. The figure took a deliberate step forward, his weapon raised like a dark promise. You think they'll save you? He taunted, a low cackle echoing through the alley. That help is coming? You're more likely to die here, alone. Shut up, Marcus shouted, adopting a fighting stance, and though his heart raced and his hands trembled, he focused on the fear, turned it into anger, energy. Just as the masked man took another step, the high-pitched wail of the sirens shattered the silence, intertwining with the tension in the air. Lights flickered at the alley entrance, a flash of blue and red. In that moment, the man's confidence faltered. Cops, he muttered, shifting his eyes back, weighing his options. It was the distraction Marcus needed. He charged forward, swinging the sharp glass. But the man was quick, sidestepping and throwing Marcus off balance. The air crackled, a jolt of panic racing through him as he stumbled. Marcus steadied himself, pivoting just in time to dodge a brutal swing from the masked figure. The alley erupted with noise, his heart thundered in his ears, the sirens blared, and the world shrank down to the twisted steel of their struggle. Marcus spun, narrowly missing a punch that could sent him sprawling. He felt alive. The fear, the determination. It ignited something primal within him. He pushed forward, aiming for the man's midsection with a thrust of the glass shard. It connected, but instead of the victory he craved, the masked figure roared in anger. He retaliated with a savage blow to Marcus's side, almost knocking the wind from his chest. "Fool!" the masked figure growled, pressing closer. "You think you can save her? You can't even save yourself." In a flash, Marcus saw the girl's terrified face, a mix of fear and determination. He couldn't let her down. He had to protect her. Gritting his teeth, he summoned every ounce of strength, gripping the glass shard like a lifeline, ready for one last desperate push. Just then, a figure emerged from the swirling shadows at the mouth of the alley, a cop. The air thrummed with the weight of impending confrontation. "Drop it, both of you!" the officer shouted, gun drawn, its barrel glimmering menacingly. Marcus's heart surged, caught between hope and terror. The masked figure froze, eyes darting between Marcus and the armed cop. It was a fleeting chance, an opening. "Go!" Marcus shouted, desperation fueling his voice. "Run to the officer." The girl hesitated, glancing at Marcus one last time. He felt time slow, the pull of their connection urging her to safety. The masked figure was already retreating, eyes dark with fury but sensing the presence of authority. In that split second, she made her choice. She turned and sprinted toward the officer, lightning quick and full of resolve. But satisfying that need for escape made her vulnerable. "No!" Marcus yelled, his heart in his throat. As she reached the officer, he could see the masked man pivot toward her, rage spilling over, determination darkening his features. "Stay back," the cop ordered, but the masked figure lunged, a final act of defiance, aim set on the girl. Adrenaline coursed through Marcus, the noise of the world falling away. This was it, the moment that would forever change everything. Would she escape? Would the officer react in time? As he rushed toward them, fists clenched, preparing to defy fate itself, an echo of darkness fell over the alley, one that promised chaos, and the sickening realization that their path had been determined long before the chase had ever begun. And then, silence. What would happen next? Would he be too late to stop the inevitable? In the breathless stillness that followed, every heartbeat felt like an eternity. It was as if Marcus were caught in a dream where the night waxed darker and deeper, shadow creeping in to swallow the light. He launched himself toward the girl and the officer, echoing fear pulling him like a tether. He had to save her. The world splintered back into motion. The masked figure, infuriated, bore down on the girl like a predator determined to claim its prey. Marcus's muscles screamed. The lacerating pain in his side flared, but so did his resolve. Every fiber of his being focused on one goal: intercept that deadly lunge. "Stop!" The shove of his voice thundered out, raw and fierce. The urgency clawed at his throat, propelling him forward as he dodged a colliding garbage bin that loomed between him and the oncoming chaos. The officer's gun steadied, aimed precisely at the masked figure, a flicker of bravado wavering. But the masked man's anger was a rampaging beast, eyes blazing with fury as he advanced, every intention to inflict harm before concern for self-preservation. "Get away from her!" Marcus roared, closing the gap like a bolt of lightning. Just as he lunged with the glass shard aimed straight for the masked figure's shoulder, the officer squeezed the triggered. Bang! The sound shattered the air, a deafening crack that sent Marcus jolting. He stumbled as the figure reeled back, but not before his knife-like fingers gripped the girl's wrist, yanking her toward him. She gasped, wide-eyed, a silent scream that surged through Marcus's veins. "No!" Marcus lunged again, summoning the last ounce of adrenaline roaring within him. In that agonizing moment, a bullet grazed the masked figure's arm, making him flinch. Blood blossomed against the brick wall, soaking into the dark, grimy asphalt of the alley, a stark contrast against the shadows. But his grip didn't falter. With a vicious growl, he twisted and yanked, pulling the girl toward the dark tunnel of the alley from where he had emerged. "Stay back!" The officer barked again, moving forward. But the masked man was faster. With a brutal shove, he skidded past the officer, dragging her with him, fleeing into the deeper shadows, the sirens wailing loudly, now almost a choir of warning that only made the girl's terrified expression more vivid, more haunting. "Marcus!" Her voice broke through the chaos, cracking as she fought against her captor. It shredded through him, igniting a blend of despair and rage. "Run! Call for backup!" The officer shouted, but Marcus was already moving, sprinting into the darkness, fear like ice water coursing through his veins. The alley twisted on itself, shadows leaking everywhere, smothering the last vestiges of light. He pushed through the hostility of the night, lunging into corners, searching for any sign of them. His eyes burned, heart racing through the tunnel of his instincts, adrenaline morphing pain into fuel. "Where are you?" he muttered, breath rough, desperately scanning every nook. Just then, ahead, he spotted a familiar silhouette. There they were, locked together in a fierce struggle as they disappeared around the corner. Time wheeled forward, the chase momentarily lost in the pulse of his breath as he rounded the corner. But the masked figure was gone. Hollow terror surged, echoing through him, igniting a panic he couldn't swallow. His heart raced, pounding against his chest like a drum. Had he lost her? Marcus's chest tightened. He could almost hear the whispers of doubts, the kind that seeped in during the silence of night. The shadows shifted behind him, a presence that felt too close for comfort. He turned, back against the wall, just as the figure emerged once more, a sinister smile peeking beneath the mask. "What's the matter, Marcus? Did you think you could stop me? You have no idea what's coming." Suddenly, he understood. This wasn't just about losing a girl or facing a man in a mask. This was about a threat that was broader, darker, a sinister game woven into the fabric of their lives. And now, Marcus was in the thick of it. What did that masked figure know? What had he unleashed on the world? Just then, a faint scream echoed in the distance, sending a chill racing down Marcus's spine. Was it her? Before he could move, the masked figure's eyes flared with a sadistic joy. "Let us see how far you'll go to save her, Marcus. The hunt is just beginning." And in that dreadful moment, the shadows seemed to close in tighter than ever, and Marcus realized he had only just stepped onto a path far more treacherous than he could have ever imagined. What new horrors awaited him? Would he be able to save her in time, or had the game already begun? Marcus felt the air thicken around him, tinged with overwhelming dread as the masked figure laughed, a chilling echo threading through the night. "You think you're the hero?" The taunt hung in the air, as heavy as the shadows encasing them. Survival was slipping from his grip, the weight of failure crushed down on him. But Marcus refused to fall apart. Not now. He turned on his heel, sprinting toward the echoes of that haunting scream. Each step felt like a battle, heart racing beneath the surface of fear. The night twisted strangely around him, one corner leading to another, the labyrinthine streets mocking his attempt to save her. Every pulse beat reminded him of her fear, of what hung in the balance. Ahead, the path opened into a small square, dimly lit, ominous. The sobering thought filled him. Where was she? His breath caught as he spotted movement in the shadows, two figures wrestling. The masked man loomed over her, a predator claiming its prize. A sickening twist knotted his stomach. He had to act. "Hey!" he shouted, voice raw as he hurled himself into the fray. Panic lit the masked man's eyes as he instinctively turned, momentarily distracted. "Let her go?" The girl met his gaze, her expression talking louder than words, pleading through the chaos. The next moment was a blur. Marcus charged, adrenaline blurring his vision. He swung hard, fist colliding with the masked figure's jaw, a satisfying crunch, but the man's body barely staggered back. "Fool!" The figure spat, swinging back hard, pushing Marcus against the wall. Pain shot like lightning through his ribs. He gasped, but this was not over. If Marcus felt any twinge of fear constricting his throat, it was drowned out by rage fueled by the thought of that girl in danger. He lunged again, gripping the man's shoulder. The rage bubbled and churned, leaving no room for doubt. "You don't know who you're messing with," he growled, pushing the masked man back, forcing him down the alley just a step from her. But as he wrestled for control, the masked man pushed free, shoving Marcus back. "This isn't finished," he screamed, darting toward the unexpected dark entrance of a nearby building, dragging the girl with him. "No!" Marcus yelled. She cried out, fear rippling through the echo of his voice as he darted after them, heart thunderous against hollow walls. There was no time to process, only instinct. He barreled into the door, an explosion of chaos. The building loomed before him, an abandoned warehouse silent, but alive with possibilities. Inside, the shadows formed over heaps of debris, furniture stacked haphazardly, battered walls full of forlorn murals. It smelled of rust and neglect, but Marcus shook it off, forcing himself to focus on the imposing figure looming over her. He had to make it in time. "Let her go?" Marcus shouted, stepping forward, fists tightened. The masked figure smirked, dark eyes glimmering. "You're going to regret this." Panic clawed at Marcus, but determination fueled his muscles. He sprinted forward. Suddenly, the girl broke free. Her voice rang out, sharp as glass. "Get out of here. It's a trap." "No." Marcus fought against the instinct to cover her escape, but it was too late. The masked man lunged, grabbing her wrist in a vice grip. A shadow flickered behind her, as the masked figure leaned in closer, the air heavy with the stench of his malice. With a growl, everything fell into slow motion. The sense of dread swelled the girl's fear, Marcus's resolve clashing like storm clouds. "Get away from her," he roared, mustering every scrap of courage as he lunged, aiming for the masked figure. A security light suddenly illuminated the room, flooding it with blinding brightness. The entrance burst open, revealing a flood of punters jostling behind the police officers, spewing out commands, a wave of light and renewal cutting through the darkness. "Hands up," officers shouted as they charged in, guns drawn. Almost instinctively, the masked figure flinched, eyes darting to escape, losing focus on his grip. In the flurry, Marcus struck with all his strength. He tackled the masked figure, sending them both crashing to the floor. A blur of police officers swarmed, securing the masked man and pulling the girl to safety. Breathless, Marcus staggered back up, shaking from the weight slipping off his shoulders, looking to her. Their eyes met for a heartbeat, a silent understanding swirling between them as the chaos dissolved into relief. "You okay?" he whispered, heart racing. She nodded, tears mixing with dirt on her cheeks. "You came for me." Each word was a testament, and together they breathed the air of newfound survival. The police wrapped up the scene, the masked figure alive but caught, justice wrapped around them like a warm embrace. The truth behind their night would unspool in the coming days, secrets pulled from the shadows. "Let us go home," Marcus whispered, pulling her close. And walking into the dawn, leaving behind the darkness of the night, Marcus felt the weight of what they had lost and the promise of what they could still have. The world stretched out beyond them, a mix of uncertainty and hope, waiting to be uncovered. Now, as they faced the light, they could finally step into the healing. This was their story, a battle won. Together, they would unravel the darkness that had tried to consume both of them. And as they stepped forward, hand in hand, the future glimmered bright, the kind of future they could finally claim for their own. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help with the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference.